Okay, Aaron, here's a little recap from our golf lesson that we had. We're gonna talk about the short game stroke. When I was watching you make your practice swings, I noticed that the club head was passing your hands a lot. So I saw pitching moves that looked like this. And then by the time you actually hit the ball, it was like that. So you want to practice what you're going to do, and I understand why you were doing that. So a better way to practice is not allow this club head to go ahead and pass. And a good feel to get that feeling is to choke up on this club. And you'll notice if I let the club head pass my hands, this club, the grip end will come back this way. So you'll see how I will hit myself. Okay? If I don't let the club head pass, and I let the club head go down the line, you'll notice I can't hit myself. So that's the sensation here as you're making the pitch, that you're not hitting yourself, okay? So that's the actual stroke. And now we're gonna talk about the setup, which is BLT. Ball stands, B stands for ball, which is just about in the middle. L stands for lean, so we got a lot of weight forward. And T stands for tilt, and we're gonna talk about that. When we want lower shots, we're gonna tilt it more. When we want your normal shots, it's gonna be pretty even with the golf ball, okay? So after you got your BLT and you've got your stroke where you're not allowing that club head to pass, you'll be much more consistent, and you'll be able to have more control because you're gonna hit the ball a little harder. When you're pitching it like this, anything can happen. You can hit behind the golf ball and all that. And there is a right way to pitch, but the way that you were going about it was very difficult to have any control. Okay, so there's the pitching. And the first thing that I want to cover is your grip. Okay, so you were holding the club. Actually, when I was watching your grip, it looked really good. And then when I asked you, how's your grip and what your grip was, all of a sudden you moved around because you didn't have a starting point. So I'm going to help you have a starting point. The left hand, if you let your left arm hang here, you'll notice how the thumb actually comes in, okay? So I want you to think of this shaft here as a clock, and your thumb sits down at like 2 o'clock. So right here, you'll see, this is 12 o'clock. I'm going to turn my thumb to 2 o'clock, and then my heel pad will sit right up on top, okay? So 2 o'clock, heel pad, and that's the grip. The right hand, I noticed that sometimes you tended to move this right hand on top a lot, and when this right hand is over there, what happens is I can't turn the face anymore. Okay, you'll notice when I'm here, I'm shut down with the face. So if I really wanted to hook it, you don't hold it there, you actually go way over here, because then you can see how much I could close it. That's no good either. But I'm just saying, a better way to take this right hand, just match it with the club face. So the right hand goes on like the club face. That way, it's square with the club face. That way, whatever I do here will have control over that club face, okay? So let's talk about that again. Left hand, 2 o'clock, 2 knuckles. You'll see a couple knuckles here. And then the right hand is matching the club face, okay? So there's the grip. And you already had a good grip. I'm just putting this in as a reminder if you're ever wondering how to get back to it, okay? The next thing we're going to talk about is your ball position. You mentioned a few things that you're trying to do in your golf swing, and I think it begins with your golf ball position. It starts with, you know, where the bottom of the swing arc is. So many people think that the bottom of the swing arc, or this circle that we're making, okay, this swing, and they think that the center of the circle is the spine, and the center of the spine is the center for my shoulders to pivot. But the actual circle of the golf swing, the center of it, or the bottom of it, is just below my left arm. So you'll notice here when I swing here, this is where my left arm and shaft get in line and make one long alignment, okay? So if that's the case, then the ball position is just before low point, is just in front of your left shoulder here. If I start putting the ball where I think the middle is it, and if I go any forward in my swing, that ball is going to be going back. And that's why you had some thoughts where you said, hey, I've got to make sure I stay back behind the ball. And that's because you've got a wonderful move going forward, but then you're going to top or thin and hit the ball not as consistent. So by having the ball position where now you have a new low point, you'll see when I make a good strong move into the golf ball, the ball will actually now be more farther back in my stance. I'll get good shaft lean, which will give me good compression, and the ball will feel really, really soft because you'll hit the ball with good compression. So to sum it up, we have our new grip, we have our new ball position. Okay, so it isn't here in the middle. This is the bottom of the circle. If that's the case for your drivers, you'd probably put it just in front of that because we want to catch that on the upswing a little bit. For the irons, we want that just slightly back a little bit so we can make sure that we catch that on a slightly downward angle of attack. Okay, so we have our grip, we have our ball position, and the last thing we're going to cover is your posture. Okay, and the reason I'm going to cover your posture is when you get set up at address, you've got a very wide stance, and you can see how lower I get. If I get low here, then I'm going to be going up and down in my golf swing. And not only am I going to be going up and down because you're normally not this short, so you're going to want to get taller, so you have that issue. And then when I have my feet that far apart, what'll happen is I'll sway a lot, so I'll be back and forth, and so I'm constantly trying to either catch the low point or top of the ball. So what I'd like you to do is stand just a little bit taller. Try to be as tall as you can. I had you actually narrow your stance where you went from here to here, but you were still this height. So even after this, and you went in, you were still this height. So after thinking about this, how I could help you get the whole thing is you have your grip, you have your ball position. When you get set up at address, I want you to feel as tall as you can. And there's no way you can get tall without bringing these feet in. And that way, that takes away from how much, should I be here, should I be there? That can be very, very troublesome. So stand nice and tall, and where your feet should be or your legs should be just right under your hips. This is way past my hips, okay? Grip, posture, and your setup. Okay, so that's the setup at address, and that's going to be a very, very big part of your golf game. If there's something that we need to work on in the swing, the overall, your shape of your swing looks wonderful. I love it. The only thing that we have a time, the inconsistency when you come into the golf ball and it goes a little right or it goes a little left, the reason for the starting of the ball is our club face. And as I watched you make your first move in your backswing, as you got set up, your first move, you had a lot of forward press, we call it, okay? And look at what's happening. As soon as I forward press, that face is wide open, okay? So now when I forward press, it's a wide open face. When I take the club back, it's gonna tend to go inside. So you can see it from here. I'm gonna have a forward, take it back, and you can see how much inside I am, okay? So not only is the plane a little bit under, the face is a little bit open, so you have to work twice as hard to get back to the ball. So a simple thought that I want you to work on is to understand that this club face basically stays square from start to finish. So we'll start with the very first part of the golf swing. So if I stood right up, you'll see the toe is up. This is probably what everybody in the world knows, toe up halfway in the backswing. But if I tilt forward at all, to really match my spine, that toe is really not up. You can see how that's matching my spine. If that's matching my spine, then what that means is halfway back in my backswing, that club face is still square. And from there, then of course the right arm folds and everything goes. But that first foot is going to allow you to have less manipulations and compensations, okay? So a little drill that you can do is get set up with your BLTs and your setup. Do a little Ricky Fowler move. Ricky's actually trying to do the opposite. He's trying to get that toe up for whatever reasons he's doing it. But in our case, we want to try to take it back where that feels like almost like a putting stroke your first part of the golf swing. Okay? You wouldn't take the putter back like this or like that. All right? So, a little bit in the backswing. Imagine you've got a mirror here, and that mirror is staring at this golf ball the whole time as it's looking just that far. So you can have the mirror stare, or you can have the spine match here halfway back. Okay? I think those two, that move right there is going to really help your consistency.